Good? Sorry. All right, hello out there, if I could speak. My name's Chip McNeil. This is the University of Illinois Smith Memorial Hall. This is room 25, and we are here with our Jazz Forum on Friday. This day, Friday, March 1st, we have a very special guest here who I will introduce momentarily. We're going to have a very special forum. We're going to do some stuff with acoustic electric harp. So as you see behind me, that's going to be great. Before we get into that, I just wanted to make sure that if there are any announcements or anything special that I need to put out, I'm happy to do that before we start, or any recitals coming up. I know there's one. Adib has a recital. Adib Young's is tomorrow at 3:30. Here. Right in here. Okay, at 25. Jeremiah.
Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Some MBA. Okay, so Jeremiah's got a DMA recital.
Wow.
Yep. Okay. Leon?
Mine is tonight at 7:30.
Oh, tonight at 7:30, and that's in here?
In here.
Okay, cool. Very good, very good. Yes?
My composition recital is March 23rd in here.
Okay, March 23rd after spring break, so that's coming up. All right, Goyo?
On Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we are starting the Brazilian nights at the gallery.
Oh, Gallery Art Bar.
Yeah, gallery art bar.
In
7
Urbana.
p.m. Brazilian nights.
Okay.
The three first Wednesdays of March we will be there.
Oh, cool. Okay.
7.
Okay, so go check that out. Anything else? Anybody over here I missed? Somebody? Stefan.
I believe next Friday, Eric Debbie has a recital in the Music Building Auditorium at 7:30.
Okay, Eric was a trumpet player here, or is. He's still around, but he was gone for a bit, and now he's back. I think it must be a DMA recital. I think he's finishing up his DMA. Barrington.
Yeah, Thursday, March 7th, 7 to 9, 7 Saints.
Yep.
Vocal jazz combo.
Both of the combos, so go check that out. Please support them. And tomorrow, one more last thing, I guess, if there's nothing else. Tomorrow, I'm planning a jazz brunch at the Neal Street Blues from 11 to 1. If anybody wants to get some really great food and come by and hear some jazz early in the morning, you can do that. And after his recital tonight, and you can hear his tomorrow. How about that? All in one shot. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
I just wanted to real quickly. I'm writing an email currently to Dr. Morehouse so she's aware of the state of Smith currently in terms of the basement, in terms of the cleanliness of it. I just spent 2 hours today cleaning this very room for recitals that are going to be in here for our guest artists and stuff. And I think that's something that we can all take charge in. And if we see things that are not meeting the standards of cleanliness for our workplace, in education spaces, we should definitely contact those who are able to make those changes, faculty and students included. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Yeah, it gets busy. I mean, this room gets used by a lot of people, not all jazz people. It's other people, too, using this room all the time. So I don't want to make it sound like it's only you folks. You know, it's everybody that uses this room. There are large classes in here and other things, and there's a lot of stuff. I see garbage all the time left. You know, drinking stuff, wrappers, that kind of stuff. So clean, just put it in the waste cans. You know, that's just being, taking care of its space. What I can say about our stuff is make sure that it gets put back where it goes. That helps a lot too with setup time and everything. Okay, so that's fine. I would say probably contacting Nathan Mandel would be the right person to contact. And he can let maintenance know and the people that work here in the building, okay? But if we can just keep it cleaned up, that helps a lot. Putting things back after rehearsals, that's a lot of it. Okay, great. Anything else? All right, without further ado, today I'd like to thank Professor Ann Young, too, for inviting him. And Ann's up there, inviting our very special guest today, Park Stickney on the harp.
What place I need to start?
Okay, sure. What would you like to play? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that volume too loud. That's great. Okay.
Yeah? Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2. use this time? How can I be useful to you? I mean, I know what I get out of this. I get to come and, you know, meet, take the temperature of what's going on here. And I think, but you can also tell me how I can help you, if I can help you. I think I can tell you about the harp a little bit if you don't know it. I can tell you about what I do in my career. I can tell you this voyage I'm on trying to understand and help the harp in jazz, which is a real thing and has been for a long time. But that seems like, and then we play some tunes.
Yeah.
That seems like, okay, so do you know everything there is to know about the harp? Should I tell about the harp, how it works? A little bit, okay.
Yes, definitely.
Good, because I also like talking about this. So here's my 2-minute thing about the harp. So the harp is one of the oldest instruments. This we probably, I mean, I always think that first we, you know, sang and screamed, and then we hit things, and then maybe we blew, maybe we plucked, who knows, but yeah, it was one of those plucking things. So we realized, oh, our bows maybe, there's some debate about it. It doesn't really matter how it happened, but we can all agree, I hope, that it's really old. And the first harps were just a frame with a soundboard of some sort, a resonating cavity, and strings. It was wood and strings. It was trees and sheep, basically. Huh?
I love it.
And the thing about the harp, because now it's very complicated, like Wolverine and all this stuff. But this is just extra, just like the buttons on a trumpet are extra. What we had in the harp, the problem was you had a limit to how many notes you could have. And the limit was by 2 parameters. If you think about it, the limit to how many strings you can have on a harp is how long your arm is and how thick your finger is. Because of how many strings you can have, right? This is probably they could be a little closer than this. But, so at one point, so that was the harp. And it worked like this for a long time. And then somebody clever said, well, what if, how can we can't, evolution is too slow, we can't get longer arms fast enough for the note demand of the harp listening public. So what if we instead added a little lever on each string? So now we'll have 2 notes per string, doubling, depending on how you tune, depending on math and so on, but increasing a lot the number of notes you have. And so they did this. And what was great about this is you had many more notes, oh, I should tell you the harp, a big difference from the harp, which you may not know, is it has 7 strings per octave. The piano has 12 notes per octave. We have, so the C's are red, right? And so you can tune it in different keys. It's always, the harp is a very modal instrument, although now it's also a very chromatic instrument. In fact, it was always chromatic, you just very slowly chromatic because you'd have to tune it to be in a new key.
Right.
But then once you had these levers, then you could you could change into different keys, so you became much more chromatic. The way the math works out, you could only be in 8 out of the 12 keys. If you look around the circle of fifths. And so what they would do is they tuned it off in something like E flat. So you get a handful of flat keys, a handful of sharp keys, and no crazy click keys like C sharp. Because who cares about C sharp? But then, what's the problem when you have a lever on each key is that you, if you want to change the key, you want to play in a different key, you have to move all the levers or some of the levers. And if you want to modulate while you're playing, you have to use your hand. You lose half of your hands as you're moving these levers.
Right.
So somebody a while ago had the idea, well, what if we had pedals? And we'll have pedals that will, for every C lever, we'll have a pedal, and that will move all the levers at once. And they call this the pedal harp. So you still had the same problem of only 8 keys. Every note still had every string still had 2 notes. You had 7 pedals, and you could move them globally. But you still have only 8 keys out of 12. So a while later, so yeah, but what if we had, instead of just 1 extra position, we had 2? So this is called, and that's what this is. This is the double action pedal harp, because it has 2 positions plus the length of the string. So the string is this long normally. It can also be this long or this long. So, and this is calculated precisely so it's a half step higher each time. And this works globally. So, that's basically for the mechanics of the harp, I think. For me, with the harp and jazz, my own voyage with jazz started because I was playing harp in Arizona, where I'm from. There was a harp program in our public schools thing. I started playing the harp when I was 7. And I was always a really bad student, meaning that I was always fooling around with the harp. What's great about the harp is you can control harmony and melody at the same time. And I found it just fascinating. I loved playing around with it, so I was never doing what I was supposed to be doing. And And it turns out that later that actually is my job.
Yeah,
because
right.
it's like what I was doing was composing and improvising and fooling around.
Sure,
Yeah.
of course.
But then I was really lucky because when I was 10, in I guess 78, there was the first ever festival of, they called it pop and jazz harpists, which meant that at that time there were enough harpists that were doing something else besides the normal classical stuff. They were playing in restaurants. Somewhere it was, and I think they called it pop and jazz. Later it became jazz and pop. But a pop harpist was somebody who was playing in a restaurant, who was playing usually sheet music, but making their own arrangements, and they wanted to talk about seventh chords and things like this. So they had this festival and a competition, and I went to this festival, understood nothing. I was in the competition. That's when I first switched actually from the lever harp to the pedal harp, because I was playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and my teacher said, you know, there's a lot of leverage you're doing there. Maybe you should, it's a little too early, but maybe you should switch to pedal harp. So I did, just for that. And because I was playing in a pedal harp, I learned the most amazing thing for me at that time, the pedal slide, which is what changed for me my life. It's this. Normally when you change a note, you muffle, then you play the next note. But you can also slide it. So you're playing the note with your foot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this I thought was the coolest thing. I spent all my time doing this. And then I became a better student. I continued on with my classical stuff, but I was still always playing around. Yeah. I think you should play something while you think about, while you ponder about
Yeah.
the harp.
Hey, I had a question.
Yeah,
real
yeah,
quick.
yeah.
Because for the writers out there too, we have arranging people and
Mm.
stuff, and actually we're going to be writing on like a studio
fantastic.
orchestra using harps.
Yeah.
And so maybe talk about the notation, what you're used to seeing, you know, for the pedals. Is it
Well,
still
that's-
just the basic? You know, there's a couple of different kinds. I know.
Basically, I think the best thing is to work with a harpist.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to, because it's an organic feeling. You have a few composers like Britten who worked with a harpist, has some passages that just feel delicious for the feet. Yeah, no, there is a thing, the foot feel. We don't talk, actually, I just made that up. We should, but I think from now on, I'm going to talk about foot feel. That's really good. So, I don't know, usually when the composers write in the pedals, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
Yeah,
Okay.
even I as a composer, sometimes I'll make arrangements and I'll give them to a colleague of mine. He's like, don't write the pedals in.
Just leave
Although
it.
I just finished a thesis, and in that I had to write it. I chose to write a series of pedal etudes, and for that I wanted to have them move the pedals in a specific area. So I told them because it was for specific reasons. And in fact, I developed a new pedal notation, which was added a third stave, and because I think one of the problems that classical harpists, or let's just say harpists have, is with the rhythm of their feet. So because they'll write in like, I need to have a C natural somewhere. Maybe they'll say, in 3 measures I need a C natural, so I'll put it here when I have nothing else to do.
Right.
Which makes sense, but they don't necessarily, if it's a complex, dense pedal situation, they might not think about the rhythm of the pedals. And that's what when I'm teaching, I'll find that often. You're like, okay, there's a problem here. Oh, it's because you're not really aware that your feet are either doing the same rhythm or a polyrhythm of some clumsy sort. So I wanted to be able to notate that for these etudes. So I put a third stave where I had various indications for how the feet were going to behave, but I wanted to be able to show exactly. And what's nice about this is that I could use chords. So because sometimes my thesis was about doing multiple pedals with the same foot at the same time, which is a thing that I found for myself, but then I discovered the real question in my thesis was, if I have this fantastic idea which changes the world, this allows you to play all 12 seventh chords with one foot movement. You can play a seventh chord as fast as you can think about it.
Yeah.
And this was not normal. So I had this great idea, and so my main question was my secret. I had some really good academic questions, but my secret question was, this is a really good idea, and sometimes I'm clever, but I'm not sure how come I'm the first person to have this idea? And it turns out I wasn't. In fact, in the history of the harp, back in that first pedal harp, the single action harp, the best way to make a diminished chord was by pressing down 3 pedals. But then, and so you can see in the methods of that time, they will tell you, do it like this, because you need an F sharp and an A sharp, and because this is too much, because it was tuned in E flat, you'll just believe me, that was the most efficient way to make. So in all the compositions and etudes and the method books, they would explain that. They would say, okay, you're pressing down 3 pedals, you don't really need the G. So one guy said, which is what I would do, just press down all 3 and don't worry about it. Another guy said, well, what you could do is you could flip up the G and just press down the F and the A at the same time. But what's interesting, that's true, but what's really interesting is that when the harp changed from the single action to the double action, then people stopped doing it. And there's another amazing, I don't know if you'll find this amazing. I find this amazing. Because it didn't switch like this and everyone sold their harps and bought the new technology. It's a a crossfade. But there's a guy named Wilhelm Posse who wrote a series of etudes which are used today. Like for grad school, you'll play a Posse etude. And in his etudes, he tells you specifically, please move the pedals. He says in the edition I had, he says in English and in German, please move the pedals where I have indicated. And if you move the pedals where they're indicated, it means move double pedals and triple pedals at the same time. Even crazy, like diagonal things.
Oh, wow.
Which is a really good idea. But people tended not to do this, and I found proof of this, because in Italy, from the 50s until the 80s, when the system changed, every classical harpist had to play a certain number of these etudes. Everyone. And everyone, well, I don't know, I didn't look at everyone's, but I saw the notation. They all whited out where it said, they corrected the pedals, because they thought, well, this guy, obviously he didn't know what he wanted. He said to us, please move the pedals exactly where they're written, but obviously this virtuoso composer harpist didn't know what he meant. And so it's really amazing, because it was found and forgotten, I always think it's like Harry Potter, the room of what is it called? The room of need, the room that appears when you need it. Because what people would find this technique, yes, thank you, very good. People would find this because it's an obvious idea, but it's in plain sight and invisible. And people would even fight against it, like, no, I can't do that because my feet are too small. Like, well, yeah, but as long as your feet are longer than this, then you can do it. Well, okay, longer than this. Yeah. Anyway, but you were talking about notation. So I think the best thing to do is you write the music that you hear, and then meet with a harpist, and because they're gonna change it anyway.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. What about
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, but we go with this?
Yeah, I think we should have. Ron has a question back there.
Yeah, I'm curious about the amplification.
Yeah.
Is that a requirement? Is there?
Every question is a philosophical question. This is an electroacoustic harp, so it has a pickup behind every string. Actually, the very first time they first started making electric harps and electroacoustic harps, about the same time that they had that very first jazz pop festival. So there was you could see that it was going this direction. Before I had access to a harp like this, I would use a pickup or a microphone, and I remember them talking at that festival about taking a basic vocal mic and wrapping it in hotel towels and putting it in. And this can work, but of course you need amplification if you're going to play with drums, with rhythm section, I think. Because if you think about harp in orchestra, a lot of times when you're doing subtle things, tell me if I'm saying a lie, Anne, but when you're doing subtle things, everyone backs away and the harp comes in, And then if you're not doing subtle things, that's why the harp you have so much space. Basically, it's simple, which is amazing. And actually something in my own playing, I'm coming back to grips with playing glissandos. I was really I pushed them away, like, that's not me. And now okay, actually I am still a harpist, and it does this so well. It's so powerful. But luckily now, because you have a pickup behind every string, and there are different companies doing this, exploring different possibilities, and it really, I think it's necessary to have amplification. Otherwise, you're going to be playing too hard, you can't do any subtle things, or they're going to have oh harp, let me get the brushes out, and so.
Max doesn't own brushes. No.
But the amplification is really a luxury for us, I think. Although on this tour, this is the first time I've had the access to an electric harp. I just brought a pickup and hoped. So yes, thank you. So, any other questions? I saw that you had a question.
Yeah, two things, but starting with, in terms of harp as a comping instrument, in terms of what you think of comping, do you think closer in terms of like a pianist or a guitarist, or neither and or both?
This is also really interesting, because I always feel a little bit uncomfortable when I find myself in this situation, because I came through a classical thing, and even though I'm living here, I feel a little bit like an alien in a way. And so, like the trading thing, I didn't spend thousands of hours with that dynamics. I know how it works, but am I really So, but you're talking about comping. So comping is the same thing, but I think that actually my weakness is that I didn't come through your world. And my strength is also because then I'll make ridiculous things that you might not have thought of. Also harmonically, I think.
You did a couple of really interesting places, the A flats and a couple spots, the major seven chords.
And because it's an instrument that has a lot of flexibility harmonically, like the piano, but we don't have the same weight of history on us. So, and this is not your question, but I'm still circling around your question. But with harmony, I think that part of the job is you try to be as much of a saxophone on the harp. How much of a pianist can I be? How much? All the things. And then you get to a point where it's just ridiculous. Like Olio, I never played under concert because, although actually I think I'm going to start because it's really fun. Yeah. But Donna Lee for me is a piece that I play around with. In my thesis I explore giant steps. But it's selfish. It's it's egotistical for me to play. That's not fun for anyone except for. Well, no, that's not. I'm not secretly saying that. Come on, let's play it. I mean, we can play, but for the comping, this is all about that. I always wonder what my role is with comping. I think it's the harp is between guitar and piano because we have direct contact with the strings, because we have notes like the piano, although we have a bigger reach than a piano. That's the amazing thing. We can do, if you do an alt chord, we can do this. Which we can't do, and it sounds great. So because the more distance you have between dissonant notes, the better it sounds. Right. So you can almost reach 2 octaves with one hand. Yeah. A tenth is no problem.
Yeah. So, and all of us that can play the piano wish we could not have to split them up and play tenths.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Art Tatum.
So, but I think, and so obviously, because on this tour I found myself a bunch of times playing in this kind of situation, and I think, wow, I bet I'm violating so many rules. But I think that the role of the harp, I think the improvisational role of the harp, because of this dialogue between modal and chromatic, because we have only 7 notes at a time, so at the piano you have to avoid so many notes all the time, because you have access to 12 notes all the time. Saxophone also, you have access to every note all the time, so you have to know what not to play. Right. For us, I remember once I was playing it was a recording session, and the bass player said to me, okay, it was long ago in my defense, he said, don't play so many ninths. And I was like, I'm not playing any ninths, I'm just playing the notes. What do you mean ninths? And because they're all here naturally. improvisational, I think that the game of the harp, the foot game is making harmonic decisions, and then the hand game is sculpture and dance. You put things close together, or you don't. You know, you have arpeggios, or you just and you play with the texture of the strings itself. So I think my current thought about comping, and here's where I answer your question for real. I think we're drums, actually. I think we're, because you get to like add in a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I think that's what we do. How do you feel about it? How was it when I...
Yeah, rhythmically. I mean, I agree. You have so many options in the strings. That's what was going to be my question, maybe follow up with that. Like, how the technique of actually just playing the strings and how the touch you have to have, you know, to achieve certain rhythms and things like that. And then obviously the harmonic spread and all that stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about. Although I have to tell you something, one calming question, because I was playing once in a trio. It was with a vibraphone and a bass, a really like amazing, but a little bit snobby bass player. I think it's okay it's being streamed, because I think he would agree. Actually, I mean, it's all his weakness and his force. Because he's very, and I thought, wow, what do I do for comping for him? So I said to him, it was in Geneva. So we're speaking in French. And I said to him, I wanted to say, what can I do to better support your solo? So I said, Fred, parce que c'est Fred, comment je peux mieux supporter? But I thought that support could be a verb. Comment je peux faire pour mieux, pour better, supporter ton solo? How can I better support your solo? Sauf que, except that support is what they say, a fake friend. It doesn't mean to support. Support means to endure.
Yeah.
What can I do to better endure your solo?
That's
Like really serious. And he's like, what? And I think, okay, something went wrong. So, but, and then the group stopped.
No,
Not because of that.
Yeah.
So the harp can do so many things just because we have hands on strings. So you have just the regular harp sound. But one thing I do a lot is, playing near the table, it's called. So you have this. I'm doing a lot of muffling to get rid of sound.
Right.
This is something I saw first in one of my teachers for Scarlatti. To really control the sound completely. A thing I love doing is, just blocking. The problem with the harp, if it has a problem, is that it's beautiful.
Right.
It's beautiful all the time. And so we have to find a way to get, the beauty of not beauty there by having sounds. One of the things I really love to do is, just blocking and play. So, which is aleatoric. I mean, I'm just blocking the sound and releasing a hand. Harmonics is something you can do. Sliding into a note. So here I'm going to play F and C, fifth, and I can slide from E to E sharp. So I get that little color. One of the amazing things about the harp, about harmony again, is that because each string is 3 notes, but the pedal controls all those, this C pedal controls all the C's, so I cannot have a C and a C sharp at the same time. So if you want to have a C sharp and a C, or you have to think it's D flat and a C. If you want to have you have to think really crazy chords, so you'll have, and also I play almost always in sharps, because the way, and this is not something you need to know, but if on the harp you press down the pedal and don't lock it in place like I just have, if you just press it down, it'll go back up by itself. So if you play in sharps, that means you can move super fast, and you can do like this. So because I'm playing in sharps, I'm playing a lot of times an A sharp 7 or an F sharp 7.
No, that's really good because I was explaining to the writers yesterday, stringed instruments is a whole other story about sharps and flats. And this literally, because of the design of the instrument, has a lot to do with how you think about it, because like these instruments, well, maybe not so much of these, but somewhat, we tend to think in flats, especially in this country, right in flats.
Yes.
We would say B flat minor, not A sharp minor.
Right, of course.
Never, so.
But again, for the writers, you don't have to worry about it, because I think that's why I think also the future. That's one of the things I was thinking about a lot in my writing, was that the future is Finale and Sibelius or whatever program you use, because then the harpist can really. Because it's interesting thinking about that in a piece of music. It could be one of two things. It's the sounds you want to hear, or the recipe of how to produce those sounds.
Right.
And sometimes it's a little bit of both.
Right.
So
Interesting.
So
Any other questions? Yeah.
Oh, good.
Dominic.
What inspired you to do jazz harp?
Well, that's a good. I don't know exactly. I mean, I think it's like I said. I was always sort of fooling around with stuff, and it wasn't jazz because I didn't listen to jazz. I didn't know what jazz was back in Mesa, Arizona. But it was. I think that was the closest tribe for me in a way. Being, playing what you wanted to play, and because it seemed to be the people that were closest to what I was wanting to do. I want to go on stage and I want to just play. That's what I want. So, and I know that there's, of course, with the history of jazz, with all this stuff that you're all. So that's, I mean, in a way, that's. I don't know. That's a little bit unfair that I can just go and play, because I don't speak that language. But jazz, I think, is becoming a bigger and bigger world.
Yes.
So I'm not a bebop harpist. Even though occasionally I'll steal some lines from this, and I'll find.
Sure.
I feel like our role as a musician always is to find your voice somehow. So I think. Yeah, it was what inspired me was the harp itself, and then because I kept finding myself in that world, I kept picking up ideas from this and realizing, oh, I guess that's what I am. I guess I'm a jazz harpist, which is, I mean, I'm assuming you find this also that not everyone likes jazz. So everyone likes the idea of jazz, I think. I mean, how many like Thelonious Monk beer and all this, like everyone loves that idea, but then actually go and hear jazz, like, oh. The number of times I was like, jazz harp, amazing. Oh, great, because I've got a concert on. Oh, no, I don't. I like neither the harp nor jazz. Actually, or music, for that matter. So they didn't say that. But I did have something, no, I don't like jazz. So, no, okay, great. Well, what about... Anyway, yeah, but I think it just happened. The answer is I'm just waffling because it just happened. What inspired you to play jazz?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you
All
see,
right.
yeah.
So basically, I've been playing drum set since 2010. So ever since like second grade.
Yeah.
And I was explaining this to Max Osawa on the drums band there the other day, saying that I don't know, I just saw Carmen Appice with 2 bass drums.
Yeah.
And that inspired me to woo, rock and roll. Then after reading his book with his shirt off, I originally listened to a couple of jazz records, and after my first band concert, I saw a big band, and I'm like, whoa, jazz has a lot of spice to it.
Yeah.
So then I opened up, Kind of Blue, Thelonious Monk, and then I listened to it, and I thought, I literally picture myself in like a Chicago restaurant listening to jazz and feeling what the world means to me when it comes to jazz and jazz drum set, and how to do that on the instrument that I love to play, which is the drum set.
Yeah, it's the same.
So-
This is my instrument. I didn't realize this was my instrument until I was in my late 20s. I just finished my master's, and I was playing the harp in a restaurant, and suddenly I had this revelation. I thought, wait, I love playing the harp, and I'd played it for so many years. But yeah, exactly, right on. It's perfect. Wow, thanks.
Katie?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know you spoke about how like you how the harp, like how you play it amplified, but do you more see yourself as like an acoustic instrument that happens to have amplification, an electroacoustic instrument where you like play, and do you ever like play around with like pedals or doing things to your sound in that sense?
Yeah, I guess I think of myself more as being an acoustic instrument that's, but I have done some pedal stuff, like when I played it occasionally like in a rock situation where it's very loud, and so I can't get louder to show that it's my turn, so I have to change my sound. And I just did a thing, I had a duo concert with a percussionist where the idea is we just go on stage and just start playing, and that's the concert. And so then I thought, I'm going to try something, so I put on an octave pedal. But I think that like chorus delay, all this, I know I like to dress up the sound a little bit, but as far as effects pedals, I feel like the harp already has so much going on. And because I'm comping at the same time, if I'm playing solo, for example, then it gets really messy really quickly. So whereas in the rock situation, I was like a guitar, a big, heavy guitar. So, but I think that, a lot of people do that. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there, and I always think, I'm tiptoeing into live and seeing what could I do with it? Because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff, but it's not. This is really my instrument. There are actually there's a MIDI harp now, very like an experimental. One company made a MIDI harp where the pedals you don't need really so much, and there's also a hydraulic harp. But that's not for me. I like that my feet. I love this four-limbed thing, and I like being able to feel the dissonance of my chord by how many pedals I've moved. Yeah, sometimes I move pedals I don't even need. Just I'll make an E sharp, even though I have an F, a perfectly good F lying there, because I want the feeling of sliding into it or just moving the pedal. Sorry, there's a discussion over here, I think, or yes, oh here. Yeah, sure. There's one I think, and it was a harpist who tragically became paralyzed from the waist down because of a saxophone player. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, she was working at his event and the tent fell on.
Oh,
That's
oh my goodness.
anyway. So it's a bad story. But she can still move her foot, I think, and she can. So a harpist engineer made for her a harp that you could pre-program all the pedals, and so that you would press a button and they'd all move. But the thing is, it's a different instrument then at that point. I mean, I think the way you access your instrument is what makes it. So if I could move the pedals with my mind, it would be a different, which is basically what she's doing. And I think it's not for improvisation, it doesn't work, because I want to be able to go wherever I want to be able to go. But she can play impossible things that don't, like she can play piano repertoire that's just sick. It's really amazing. So yeah, and thank goodness it's, the technology happened to be there at this point. So yeah, sorry. Now do you feel like, oh, that was a tragic harp question? Anything else? Yeah.
Just a real quick. Are there some musicians who have? I was thinking about those who are like disciples of an instrument, but I'm thinking about others who are championing that idea of writing specifically for a harp and jazz context, or kind of song.
So harpists who are writing specifically for that, or harpists who are playing it?
Or not even just composers and jazz composers or arrangers in general who are saying, I want this to be more important sounding more for what I want to do.
You mean non-harpists? Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny because also back in the day, a lot of the people who were creating harp repertoire were the harpists themselves. There were a lot of virtuoso harpists making this. And then this sort of changed. I'm sure there's a thesis about this somewhere, why this changed, why like Parrish Olivars, why they stopped writing and people started just playing those pieces. And so I think a lot of what's happening in jazz is that, people playing their own stuff themselves. I'll probably think about this tonight. Well, what about this person? But as far as somebody who's, maybe because the harp is so strange it's so personal. But I think when I think about harp used in big band kind of stuff, it's still like an orchestral color. I mean, I think it's not so well known. I'm not sure this is true, but I have a feeling it's not as well known what the harp can do chromatically and as a soloing instrument, and so it's not used that way. Which is one of the really exciting things about the harp, is that because it's been around forever, and even jazz harp has been around to some degree. I mean, there's this guy Casper Reardon in Cincinnati, who's back in the 20s, I think, or 30s. His students were telling him about this new hot swing music, and he started playing this new hot swing music, and then he quit Cincinnati. He was a really good harpist. He was the orchestral harpist and the harpist in the conservatory, and he moved to New York in the 30s. And there's a photo of him where he's doing the same pedal technique that I was doing. He's one of the people who found that, but then he suddenly died when he was 40. He just felt sick. Things were going really. He was on the radio with Paul Whiteman Orchestra. He played in the White House. He had in film. There was a concerto written for him, and he would have changed the harp, but he just got sick and died. And so then it was lost again. And so there's all these waves. Why did I tell you that? Because I don't know why I told you that. Because it's in my mind. Because it's a good thing to know. Oh, because there have been harpists playing jazz forever. But I think it's mostly for themselves. I don't think that it's. That's what I was going to say. Is that there's what's exciting about the harp. Two things are exciting about the harp. One is that there's still so much left to do. And I think there is possibilities there. And the other thing that's exciting, I think, for the public about the harp is that when you listen to saxophone, you listen to every saxophonist you've ever heard, and for you to find your own voice, is a huge challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, because then you're influenced by people you love, and then how do you not be that person?
Right.
And for us, it's still, there are becoming more and more people who have their own sound. Andreas Vollenweider, Alice Coltrane, Dorothy Ashby, all these people who you can say, oh, that sounds, oh, this person's listening to that, oh, this person's an Alice Coltrane direction harpist, which is a good thing. But I think it's still young. Ironically, with this old instrument, it's still incredibly young. So you can still invent obvious things. It's like you move to a land where they didn't have a toaster, and you're like, hey, what if we, I don't know, So maybe. My answer is maybe. Anything else?
Anything else, or we can play a quick one maybe?
Yeah.
We get a lot of
What can we play? What about what's such a Brazilian? Yeah. A little quick one, but not too quick.
No, that's fine. That's perfect.
1, 2, 3.
Park in for us, and thanks for Park for being here. Beautiful, man. Right on, I loved it. Yeah, yeah, so beautiful, man. Great.